Welcome one and all to this fun competition, except nobody knows if there's any opposition. Face so friendly, smile disarms, everything's good, no cause for alarm. Cause I'm like you, and likewise the same. But for you this is work, and for me it's a game. Give a thumbs up if you know what I'm saying. Next round starting, believe that I'm playing. Introduction's not needed, been completed so to speak. Since I always act familiar each and every time we meet. We're not colleagues, you've never even heard of me, but I'm just so polite and you're returning every courtesy. We're a perfect team, racking up a perfect score. Always have my hands full, you always hold the door. Gather info, you wouldn't take control.
Welcome to the social-engineer.org podcast number 39.
Number 39.
Oh, Dave. You know, I know you're at work, so it's hard for you to be all exuberant. But that was just weak. You know, the good news is for our listeners this month, is that since Dave's at a location where he can't do anything crazy, there'll be no Bruce Hornsby, no Price is Right music.
No swearing.
No swearing. Dave will be just a normal Dave. I'm happy.
But where's the excitement? Wait, you know what? Normal Dave.
That's true.
Is not the real Dave we know.
That's true, because there's no excitement. And normal Dave is like crazy, and it's like Crazy Eddie. Remember Crazy Eddie from the 80s? Those commercials?
No, not at all.
No?
I'm not that old.
Well, I am, as a matter of fact. Back in the day. So we have Ping with us. Ping, how art thou?
I am just wonderful in gray Seattle. The sun was out for about 6 milliseconds, and I don't expect to see it again until January.
Well, that's good. You got 6 milliseconds, so you should be happy.
Why, yes. That's why I have 32 lights in my bedroom.
32 lights. Wow. And
yes.
we're missing Jordan. He's having his teeth rearranged. No, not really. He's just at an appointment. So the poor guy can't make it. But
Well, he's a pretty boy. He's got to get all that done.
I know.
He's weak.
He's weak. He's always having himself beautified.
Yeah.
Unlike us, Dave, right? We're just beautiful naturally.
Yeah, it just naturally happens.
Yeah. We wake up and we're beautiful. Yeah.
No additives, no preservatives.
No.
Just all natural.
You don't even need a shower either.
Yeah, that actually adds to our beauty, doesn't it, Dave?
What's that?
It adds to our beauty when we don't shower.
That's right.
Yeah.
That's right.
It's that smell that all the women love.
That's right.
They do say that women like the scent of sweaty men. They find it attractive.
I'm going to have to definitely read research on that. I'm writing that down. No, just kidding, I'm not. That has nothing to do with SE at all. So
I'm actually Googling that right now.
You're proving that?
Yeah.
There's women all over you?
No, I'm trying to find the settings. I do.
I want to know what Mrs. Relic is going to say when you haven't bathed for a week. She'll say, on the couch, sucker.
She's used to that.
She's used to that.
Especially when I was going through like my OSCE. I in the shower for 2 days. That was good.
Yeah. Well, that is true. I mean, when I went through the OSCP, there was a 24-hour period of not moving from one location at all, ever.
Yeah, me neither. I had just boxes of pizza and Joe Cola everywhere.
Yeah, I did too. I had Monster and fast food and water and soda, and yeah, that's true.
Yep.
So, what's new in the world of Ping? How was Halo?
Halo, the Counterterrorism Summit, was fantastic and awesome. I met a lot of really good people. There were a lot of really good, interesting presentations that you really can't find anywhere else, and you'd have to do a lot of in-depth study. So, like, Islamist extremism, a lot of human trafficking information, narco war in Mexico. Jordan gave his presentation there and did an excellent job. His session was really, really not well attended, but I think it's a growing base that needs to get that sort of education. The people that were there were very sophisticated that went to Jordan's session. A lot of the other sessions were much more full, but I can't say it was because of Jordan. I think it's just because they don't have the background and the necessary sophistication yet to be attending sessions that are cyber or IT related.
It is amazing how much in the law enforcement arena that the stuff that we take for granted as being easy is not really used or is overly complicated in law enforcement for some reason.
Right, and they have like specialists, right? They're what I found was that people who do deal with IT sec in law enforcement, military, or gov are very, very specialized. So to find them at Halo, which is it is definitely much more counterterrorism focused, and not really highlighting the cyber warfare, cyber IT side of things. There were few and far between, but the people who were there were very sophisticated, very smart people overall. So it was great to be in sunny San Diego, where I got a year's worth of sun in 5 days.
Especially since you only get 6 milliseconds a day in Seattle.
Yes, 6 milliseconds, and that's only if you're outside. I missed it because I was on a conference call in my office. I had to see it come and then pass through, and now it's dark again.
Yes.
Bummer.
Bummer. So,
Bummer.
Yeah, what's up with, was that all that you have going on in your life? How's your new job, Ping?
My new job is excellent, of which most of it I cannot speak about.
Top secret.
Yes, it's secret. Although people are free to ask me what I do, I actually have to make up lies because I cannot reveal what I actually do at Akivant Labs.
So, what do you do, Ping?
I basically am an adult babysitter just like I was at Black Hat and DEF CON.
Awesome.
And that's the nice, safe answer that covers most of it.
Lie number 1.
Hey, can you do me a favor and give can you give Martin Boss as much heck as you possibly can?
Oh, yes.
Just mess with him as much as possible.
Yeah.
How do you want me to mess with him?
You know, like assign him jobs that are like crazy, like we need you to go guard the women's bathroom at LaGuardia Airport.
He likes those type of things, by the way. So I mean, any weird assignment that you have, like especially like the simple ones, like he really likes vulnerability assessments. He really likes like NERC SIP audits. He really likes
that
type of stuff.
He hates that stuff. Oh yeah, give him all the vulnerability scans.
Want to torture him? No, you remember? I don't know if you were probably not paying attention, Dave. But when I met Martin, because I hadn't met him prior to going to Derby, I asked him to say something, and then he did it. And it was such a weak attempt. I was like, "You suck," and he was like, "Oh my god, I never want to work for you. You're so mean." And I think he had to cry a little bit on the inside.
Yeah, I mean he's one of those comes off strong in the front, but is like really a teddy bear behind the scenes.
Yeah.
So I mean any way that you can mess with him is definitely preferred with us.
Yeah, especially when you know him just from online first, because his handle is pure hate. So you figure you're gonna meet this guy that's like 7 feet tall. He looks like Ronin size, and then he's just gonna be like spitting venom and acid all the time.
You think he's gonna be a gladiator?
Yeah,
right.
And then you meet him. And, all he talks about how much he loves his kids and his wife, and he's like just a pleasant, everyday guy that just you can hang out with and really enjoy his company. So, yeah, I think he deserves to be tortured a little bit because of that.
Quite a bit.
Yeah.
I will tell you, though, that when Jordan first met me at Black Hat this summer, he said, "Wow, you're a lot smaller than I thought you would be." And I just looked at him. How do you reply to that?
Yeah, how do you reply to that? How did you reply?
I was like, so am I just, not as wide? Or am I just not as tall?
Well, what do people expect from you?
And of course, he came back with the, correct answer of, I didn't think you were going to be, I think he thought I was going to be a gargantuan of a woman.
Huh.
I don't know why.
Well, maybe it's the... I can't even say that. There's a lot of small women in IT. Yeah, I don't know.
I would say so. Yeah.
I mean, your voice does not give off the whole, I think you're a huge person. You don't have, a deep, bearing voice, but you are kind of brutal. So, I mean, maybe people expect you to be more like, a barbarian kind of person carrying a club and the heads of smaller men in your hands. Yeah.
Perhaps.
So Dave, so I don't get teased, I'm going to ask you, how's things at Trusted Sec? How's life? How's your business?
Things are great, man. Busy. I think I'm booked out for the next few months, and that's always a good thing. I hired Nick Hitchcock, and James Watson is obviously part of the team, so I'm building a small army here. It's going great.
Wow. That's cool.
So do you have a job or is it a business?
What do you mean?
Your work, your own business. There's a difference between having your own business and having a job. Which one is it for you?
It's definitely my own business. I mean, I love every aspect of it and building it up, and it's been fun. I can't wait till I have more people to where I can really focus on building the company up versus, I guess the day-to-day everything. But I guess I am the day-to-day type person, so.
That's hard, isn't it? I actually understand what you're saying. I just hired my first person too, as an assistant for me, because that's going to help me with organizing more. And it's difficult because I think at least for me, I've been doing everything myself for so long that it's hard to kind of delegate things now to other people. And that growth, although needed, is kind of scary at times.
Yeah, I completely agree with you, man. I mean, it's definitely scary and crazy, and you don't know what to expect. But I tell you, it's been so much fun, and I'm back to doing what I really love doing. I mean, back to doing the pen testing, back to doing the hacking, back to doing the building security programs for a lot of companies. It's so much fun, and it's been just the most amazing thing that I've ever done before in my life. I can definitely say.
Yeah. So I mean, I agree with what you're saying, Dave, because I got a chance to do that job with you. It was awesome. I really enjoyed it. We got to do. We had some fish set up, and then we got to do some third-party calling, phone elicitation skills, and I just thought it was epic, being able to tie both of them together. You got some pretty nice clients that I could see. Yeah, I mean, it's kind of amazing. You just started your business, and you're already totally booked out solid for months. So, congratulations.
Yeah, hey, thanks, man. And it sounds like everything's going good on your side too. It's awesome.
Yeah, things are going great actually here. I mean, I just, like I said, just hired my first person, grew a little bit. Excited about that. The training has been really going solid. I got a class next week in the UK, so I'm flying over to London this weekend, and then going to Bristol. We got almost a full class there in Bristol. People flying from all over. I got a guy coming from Japan, from Singapore, from Australia, and then of course all over the UK coming in for that class. Then in April I have a class in Belfast, Ireland, and then this is not too exotic. But then in June in one in Detroit. So it's just that's been going crazy. The training has really been filling up. I'm excited. I keep waiting for it to drop out, but it just keeps going good. And we just I kind of took your lead, Dave, when you started Trusted Sec. I started looking. Not that I copied you. I have a new person that I'm working with. Her nickname is the Marketing Asian. That's her nickname. Thanks to Ping. She referred her over.
That's awesome.
Yeah, she rocks. I mean, she is just so awesome. And she's got a lot of great ideas, a lot of motivation. She's worked in our industry forever. So it's not just that she's good at marketing. She knows about our industry. And she's helped me really redesign and refocus my corporate website. I'm so used to doing everything like a hacksaw that the corporate website needs some help. So she's really helping me with that. We just launched our new service, the Mastermind Group, and I started a new Twitter feed, SOC, so for social, so SOC Engineer Inc. And I've been tweeting things from there and having some good followers and success at getting people interested in that new Mastermind Group. Which is interesting. I guess I should talk about that briefly, if I can. Just take a second of the podcast to kind of talk about what that is. So last year at RSA, we ran a what they call a round table there, where you have maybe 30, 40 people that can get into a room, and you sit around a table and you have a discussion on one topic, and the person who's running it, which for this particular one was me, you moderate, but you don't dominate the conversation. You just moderate the conversation, and everyone joins in, and you share ideas and collaborate on different things. And of course, as the industry leader, you're supposed to throw in your advice and ideas on how to fix certain things. And of course, a topic I focused on was social engineering. And what I was told...
That's a surprise to me, by the way. I can't believe you focused on that.
Yeah, I know. You figured it would be something like exploit development or something like that, right? yeah, especially with my amazing talents in that. But we had a packed room. I was told later on that we had one of the most successful round tables there. I left there, and a lot of people were kept emailing me saying how much they enjoyed it. They'd like to do it more often. So I had this concept of maybe having it on like a phone type of mastermind group, a round table that can be remote. People don't have to go into one location. So we set up this service where people can call in, and we're going to have set times where we all get together. There'll be about 15 companies in the first round that will be able to join in and talk about the social engineering, different topics surrounding that, how they mitigate against problems, some ideas, some of the most current attacks that are occurring, and how companies can prepare for them, safeguard against them, what to do when attacks do occur. There'll be a plethora of different topics. So we launched it just last week, and we already are about half full. So that's pretty cool. So I'm pretty excited about that, and we'll see what else is going on as my marketing agent helps me to get the message out to more than 300 people.
Sounds like that's been really awesome. You said that there's a bunch of people coming from different places?
Yeah. So the way it works is we sent it out. We sent the message out to all the contacts that I have, which is limited, just a newsletter and people that I've met at cons. And, the goal is to get mainly the service is kind of organized to be attractive to larger companies like Fortune 500 or even sec companies or other companies that would be involved in having an IT team or a red team, things like that. And those are the people that are coming in. So I can't really mention all the names yet, but we have some pretty large companies that are part of it so far that have signed up. Yeah, I'm excited because I didn't know after you run it just for one time at RSA, I didn't know exactly how it would work this way, and we had planned it out. It took a few months to really organize it and make it happen, and my marketing agent did a great job helping us launch it. So.
And where did you say the different locations were going to be in, like different countries?
No, that's going to be all on the phone, over the phone.
So different countries?
Yeah. So the country of a 1-800 number that you'll call from whatever country you're in.
Gotcha.
Yeah. Thanks, Dave. Thanks. I was waiting.
Oh, Dave. We need a round of applause for Trusted Sec and White Hat Defense getting and becoming more global. Okay.
Now, without further ado, our guest, which we will get on shortly, is Nick Furneaux. He started off as a forensic specialist in the UK, works with a lot of the government agencies that we cannot speak about, and his expertise really started in RAM analysis and decompiling RAM analysis, and he got a little name over there by decompiling Stuxnet when it first happened, and of course, like most of us geeks, not being set just to stay there. He kept digging further. He found an interesting find on his blog that he talked about just last year in Skype, that the Skype logs were enabling you to locate people by their IP address when you had a conversation with them. So that, of course, was an interesting find that was reported to Skype, and supposedly they fixed it. I guess we'll ask him about that. But more recently, his research has been into API manipulation, and using APIs, being able to grab massive chunks of really sexy data from websites. So, but wait, I thought you were at a client site.
I had to do that.
I thought you were at a client site.
I know. I had to get it out there real quick. I'm in trouble, but
I hope you get fired. Anyhow, let's get Nick on now.
All right. I'm not in trouble now.
Are you ready? Can we get Nick on? We are now here with our guest, Nick Furneaux. What is that?
What was that? That was not me.
That was not me.
That was definitely Dave.
I was on mute the whole time. I'm on mute.
No, that's me. That's one of the guys sending me a fax.
Oh, that's awesome, Ping.
That's a fax.
Thank you.
Oh my goodness, it sounds like somebody was driving through your front room.
I know, it's horrible that I actually still have to have a fax machine here. I'm like, why don't you guys all just go to electronic?
And I just have to say for the record that, again, I was the first person blamed for something, and it was not me. So I just want to throw that out there again, that I'm always the scapegoat for everybody.
Yeah, you should have taken it on the chin, dude. A bit of man.
Yeah. Oh, I love Nick.
Almost over the stupid
This
thing.
is great.
This fax machine is also 12 years old, and according to some people I know, they just never die.
Is the fax machine also a vacuum?
It just sounds like that, doesn't it?
Because it does. I thought you started vacuuming your room as you were on the podcast. And Dave, don't be insulted. The reason you get blamed is because you're always the one causing problems on the podcast.
That's partially true. I mean, I'll partially give you that.
You know, you're
the entire first part of this while you were on the VPN was causing Chris to stutter.
Yes. Yeah. And you've called from a golf course. You've called from the hospital. You've called from getting an EKG. You've called from client sites. You've called from entering a plane. You've called from every place. So having weird noises in the background just makes sense that it would be you.
All right. I'll give you that. All right, that's fine. I'm not as hurt.
Yeah. Okay. But, but we love you for it, so it's okay.
All right. Yeah.
So now I'd like to introduce, without the vacuuming fax machine in the background, our very patient guest, Nick Furneaux. Am I saying that right?
Yeah, you are. It's an English person with a French name.
Yeah, that is true. That's interesting, huh? Oh, I knew it was coming. I knew it was coming. I knew it was coming. Wow, what is that really loud? Yeah, you're in a wind tunnel, huh? So, Nick, as you can tell, as we get through the introductions of our podcast, it's always a little rough in the beginning. It will get better as we start interesting conversation. We did a little intro talking about you before we got you on, so we can say bad things without you having to defend yourself.
That's fine.
And mainly we talked about your previous history before we get to our awesome topic of information gathering on steroids. We were interested in just hearing a little bit about your previous history, things like decompiling Stuxnet, that wonderful little Skype, I don't want to say malware misfunction. What was that thing in Skype where you can kind of geolocate anyone?
Yeah, undocumented feature.
Undocumented feature. I love it. And what was the feature?
That was an interesting one, in that you could make use of a debug version of Skype to identify the IP address of any Skype user. The current or the last logged in IP address. So you could get, the celebrity of your choice, run them through the debug version of Skype, get an IP address and geolocate them to their neighborhood. So it had all manner of fun possibilities associated with it.
And was it fun? Or was it fixed?
And I was just one of the people that just sort of released that news out there. That was all, nothing more exciting, but it still works. It does still work. If you go through the pain of doing it the long way, even though Skype have taken away some of the automated capability of that, you can still do it.
Well, that's nice. It's nice to know that they haven't fixed it.
Yeah, I get a feeling they may not be able to fix it. I think it may be a result of the way Skype signals. I need to do a little more work on it. It's one of those things that it came up, it was exciting, we sort of did some work with it, did some playing with it. In fact, we did use it to assist in finding a bad guy recently. So yeah, it does still work, but as to why, I haven't had a chance to spend much time on it.
Well,
I was going to ask how you came about finding this little bug in the bug feature.
It came to me in a dream. That's option one. Option two was some Russian hackers. So whichever one you want to go with, really.
I like the dream one.
It may well have been some Russian hackers just making other bad people aware of it. And I loiter around bad places on the internet and picked up that it could be possible, and then went and did some work and figured out how to do it.
Wow. So
or it came to me in a dream.
Hackers in your dreams.
I dream about Russian hackers.
Excellent.
And does your wife know?
You got to dream about something.
And does your wife know that your dreams involve Russian hackers?
I think she would prefer that they involve Russian hackers and many other things that we could discuss.
So I'm going to have to put this down as a quote. This will be the quote for the podcast. I loiter around bad places on the internet. That will definitely be the quote of the day, I think.
I mean, not loiter in a weird sort of raincoat sort of way. Not that type of loitering, because that would be wrong. Loitering in a professional, looking at the way things are being done sort of way, not a sleazy, nasty type of way.
Professional.
So
loiter.
He's not stalking on these deep dark places. He's just plainly, clearly, evidently observing.
Yeah.
In a professional manner.
Yeah, it makes perfect sense.
That's a good way of putting it. Professional observation.
Yeah, Ping has a way of wording things to make them always sound good.
I'm English.
Yeah. Oh, that's great. So you found your Russian dream hackers helped you find the Skype thing, and then maybe briefly, because this doesn't really cover SE too much, but it is an interesting thing. Can you just talk to us a little bit about the Stuxnet decompiling? Are you allowed to talk about what you found when you decompiled?
Yeah. I mean, it's there's I've published little bits of stuff. There's stuff out there on the internet. There's if there's anyone listening who's more of a forensic investigator or they have that background, I teach the analysis of RAM, so random access memory, in a forensic setting. So rather than just doing disk analysis, if you can get to a live machine and get the RAM, you can get all manner of stuff out of a RAM dump. And one of those things is taking a look at malware, because there's nothing like doing malware analysis than looking at the memory, looking at the RAM of the machine. That's what it's doing. The disk is what it did do, or what it's planning to do later. What's in the RAM is what's going on right now. And if anyone fancies going to take a look, if you Google volatility, there's a fantastic Python framework which has been written by a bunch of really great guys. Jamie Levy, Mike Lee, and really, really good programmers. And they've created this Python framework for the analysis of RAM. And just working on that, we got some Stuxnet RAM dumps and just began to slowly take them apart and do some really interesting things with it, and be able to identify how you would know if you had a Stuxnet infected machine just from the RAM dump, and then tunneling through the RAM and how it talks to different system drivers and different processes, the way it hides itself. Really very, very interesting thing to do. So, well, I say interesting. Interesting if you're a sad-ass tech, not like me, but boring if you're the rest of the universe.
And what about, are you allowed to discuss, like when you decompiled it, could you clearly identify at that point in time when it was not so clear where it was coming from, who made it?
Well, I've got to slightly take issue with the word decompile. I guess, what would the right word be? I mean, because once it's running in RAM, it's doing something. I mean, interestingly, when Stuxnet runs, it generates on a Windows operating system. There's only one LSAS process, LSASS, and it's to do with authentication. And if you see a machine with Stuxnet on it, it's actually running 3 LSAS processes. So actually, it doesn't hide itself that well. Anyone that knows the Windows operating system would immediately see that you can only ever have one LSAS process running, and yet there's 3 available once it's in the RAM. And from them, we're almost unpicking what it is doing, rather than a decompilation of the source code, if that sort of makes sense. It's very interesting to see what it's doing when it's running. As for who wrote it, I mean, I think, what's been in the news and what's been sort of admitted by the US administration probably is as far as we need to go with it.
Enjoy your next visit with TSA. Welcome to America. Please bend over. So on to the topic of what we really had you here for, is you've been doing some very interesting research as of late into API manipulation. And of course, as the Social-Engineer podcast, we are very interested in anything that helps us to gather more information in a better way. So we thought we'd talk to you a little bit about some of these API searches that you've come up with, what it does, how we can use it. Maybe you can give us a little background on this new research you're doing.
It's almost a case of where to start. I'm just building a new course to teach this stuff. Be starting in January in the UK, and everyone knows how to search Google. Everyone knows how to do a site search on Google, or how to click the advanced button and do things that way. But it's not always easy to get to the database itself. And sometimes when you do searches, and Twitter is a very good example of this, you're getting the content back in a way that's not really recordable, that's not researchable and searchable. So I mean, I've got my Twitter up on my Mac in front of me right now, and I can do a search on Obama's his Twitter feed, and I can see his last sort of 50 tweets, and I can see how many followers he's got, but that's all. It doesn't really give me very much. And even that information, how do I extract that if I'm doing a docs for a company or against an individual? So a lot of these services have got APIs, application programming interface, and it's an interface by which a programmer can, for example, write a little Twitter front end for something, or write an interface for Facebook, or a whole manner of different things. And it enables you to talk to the database directly. So I'll just talk you through what I've got in front of me right now. I can run a Twitter, an API Twitter, just create a URL which talks to the Twitter database directly and do a little research directly on Barack Obama's Twitter feed. And so I've just hit the button on that little API URL. And there's things it tells me that are not necessarily that easy to get from a Twitter interface. So, for example, I can see that his location is set right now to Washington, D.C., but I know right now that his time zone on the person who is tweeting is set to Eastern time, US and Canada. So it correlates with the location. I can see his friends, I can see his followers, all that good stuff. But I'm able to see an awful lot more. For example, I can see right now what device was used to generate the last tweet. Now, the tweet before last was a retweet, which was done from the iPhone Twitter app. And that's really interesting, because that tells us straight away how that person created that particular tweet, which tells us something about that person. I know the person they're retweeting is now an iPhone user.
Yeah.
That in its own right can be very, very useful indeed.
Does it give you any more details about the iPhone? Like if it's a 4, if it's a 5, it's a...
No, it's just giving me that it's the Twitter iPhone app. So I just have a little bit more information. Now, interestingly, I was just looking at Obama's Twitter feed and Romney's Twitter feed. And if you want a man for the people, this is quite interesting. Obama, he's got, I think, 20-something million. I'm just looking down this huge list of information that comes back in what's called JSON format onto my screen. And it tells me that he has got basically 22 million followers. But Obama follows 670,000 people. He wants to hear what the country has to say. Now, Mr. Romney only has 1.7 million Twitter followers, but he follows not 670,000, 274. Full stop.
274.
Romney obviously doesn't give a jot what anybody says.
274 people or 274,000?
No, just 274.
Oh.
That's all. So Obama follows 607,000. Romney just 274, which is a bit pathetic, really. But what I'm looking at in front of me right now is not just what I would see in a Twitter feed. I've actually got sortable, searchable data where I can see the UTC offset. I can see if there's any geolocation information. If the person with the iPhone had their location services turned on, I would get a coordinates. I would get the coordinates right here on my screen and be able to geolocate where they are. I can tell if it's been retweeted, by how many times. I've got a URL to the picture that's being used by the person in that Twitter feed. I know what the Twitter name is, but I also know what screen name they're using at the moment, their ID string. I also know when they started using Twitter and how many tweets they've ever produced. So I can see that Romney didn't start using Twitter till June 2009, whereas Obama has been using it since March 2007. Now, this is stuff it's very difficult to get from any sort of Twitter environment, but by sticking your finger straight into the database, you get a lot of information back.
Yeah. No, okay, I have a question on what you just... Hang on here. We're going to bring in our other guy. Let's do this.
Oh, gosh, he's not quite home yet, I think. He's on the road, and that's when he was writing to me. Shh, he was not driving and texting. We'll assume he was walking.
Sure. Which is what you always do after a dentist appointment. Okay, let me ask you my question. Nick, you had made the point or the comment that you can geolocate if he had his location settings turned on, whoever the user is. Is that of the tweet, or is that just of a picture?
No, that is of the tweet.
So if someone tweets from I'm sorry, go ahead, Peng.
Oh, I was going to say, is there a way to spoof it and actually not necessarily spoof it, but to trick somebody if we know that perhaps it's being monitored, a way to put in misinformation by stating like I'm on the East Coast versus the West Coast?
I would think that is possible. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, you can definitely make it look like you're coming from wherever you want to. Definitely not a problem there at all.
But most people probably wouldn't know how to do that. I would assume.
Difference of setting your location. Okay, so you can set location. So I can say Bristol, UK, but that is different to the coordinates that are sent to Twitter with the package that is your tweet. Now, I completely agree with Dave. If you could get inside that packet, or if you could inject different coordinates that are coming from the GPS chip, then it would be doable. Never tried it.
So he's got.
There's actually a lot of apps and things like that already developed too, in like the Android market and things like that do that as well. So you can actually use a lot of like stuff that's already developed on there for it too.
Okay, so there's apps. So for the common user though that's using it, let's say someone we may be targeting as an SE, we just going in and using this kind of an API search that you have, Nick, we can quickly be able to pull up and see like if his geolocation settings were turned on, we would be able to see that he's using an iPhone to send the tweet and he's sending it from this exact coordinates.
Yeah, that's exactly right, which can be very useful. But it's not just Twitter. Facebook has API, Google has API. In fact, if I can just give you a URL, which is code.google.com/APIS/Ajax/playground, it actually gives you an API code playground. Teaches you how to write the API searches, for example, to restrict your searching to specific geo environments, or searching for very particular things in geographical locations. Very interesting. And in fact, you can do the same with Twitter, where you can fire an API search in to say, just show me every tweet within 50 yards of this GPS location. Now that's very, very interesting. If there was trouble, if you had some sort of Occupy or some riot going on somewhere, that's very interesting to be able to pull up all the tweets within a 2-mile radius of a particular geolocation.
And you do that on Twitter?
There are a couple of systems out there where you can do some of that stuff with Twitter. Most of the Twitter environments, pieces of software, do not allow you to do that. But you can just write a URL, fire it in there, and of course the difference is you get all the data back in a searchable environment, in a textual JSON format. Very different to what you get through an interface.
Right. Yeah, so maybe a little more difficult to read up front, but like you're saying, you can search that data, you can query that data, and then you can pull up specific pieces that you need.
Yeah, so I mean, I can stick a couple of slides together if you want to bang something up after the show, just so people can see what it is, and I can give them some little APIs that they can run themselves to get an idea of it.
Oh, I think that'd be great. We can add that to the show notes. Maybe some quick API searches that will give people some ideas of what we're talking about, so it helps with the visual aspect of it. That's really interesting. So, I guess we're kind of thinking about the social engineering implications. Ping brought up one, of course, being able to fake information. That's, of course, a social engineering implication. That would be right off the bat. And then Dave posted some links already to things about spoofing your geolocation either on Facebook or Twitter or things like that. So that's good. But I'm also thinking about information gathering. As a social engineer, whenever we get hired to do a gig, we're going to maybe do some information gathering for a particular individual. Of course, the biggest thing that we have is the more information we have, the easier it is to come up with either a phone scam, a phish, on-site attack. All those things become more prevalent and easier to come up with if we have a large base of information. So this type of research helps us to then be able to pull up information, like you're saying, that might not be readily available. Of course, we use tools that scrape a Twitter account, and they can tell us followers, they can tell us how many people follow them, they can tell us the last few tweets, they can tell us a whole history of tweets. We can there's a tool like Creepy that can take a Twitter account and grab any image that they have tweeted and see if there's geolocation data in the metadata of the image, and then geolocate those spots on a Google map so you can then trace them. But this is like taking it just a step further, it seems, because now it's not just attached to images or particular followers or things like that, but we're finding whole hordes of data on the individual himself by using these API searches.
And also making the recovered data searchable. Because if you're doing a big search on somebody, if you're trying to dock somebody, you, as you know, just generate so much information. And there is the tendency on part of the investigator to almost self-censor on the fly. Oh, I don't reckon that's important. That's probably not important. And moving on. But really, we should be gathering all of that information in such a way that it can then be worked through, it can be searched, information can be gleaned. So that stupid little detail of that last retweet being from iPhone on Twitter, that just tells you something about that particular subject. And that could get lost. You need to retain all that information in a searchable format.
Yeah, this is so Jordan just joined us. Let me just introduce you real quick. Jordan Harbinger, this is Nick Furno.
All right, thanks for sorry for the late join. Had to go get the teeth cleaned. You know how it is.
What I do is I buy this thing called a toothbrush, and every night
I'm not into manual labor. So
his assistant brushes his teeth for him.
I outsource it. I outsource that whole spiel
to India.
Yeah, that's why it took me so long to get home.
Yeah.
That's fantastic.
So
open wide, please, Mr. Harbinger. Just going to clean your teeth for you. I like the sound of that, actually. You know, if you could get me some tea, clean my teeth.
Yeah. So what hits me, I think I'm thinking about the speech that Jordan just gave out at DerbyCon. Jordan, not really being in the tech field in the recent times, but has a technical background in nature, and he's very into the human aspect of relationships and how to use influence and things like that. He ran a little test. Maybe instead of me talking about it, Jordan, you can talk a little bit about the LinkedIn test that you ran, because I think some of the stuff that Nick is talking about with API searching, you can even take that whole speech a little bit further down the line if you wanted to, by using some of these API calls that Nick has come up with to dig out information. Do you have API calls for LinkedIn, Nick?
Yeah.
Okay, so Jordan, maybe instead of me trying to tell him what to say, you can tell a little bit about the research that you did with LinkedIn and some of the things you did.
Sure. So essentially what I did was I found a group of people with top secret level clearances, mostly defense contractors, and I used a combination of sort of pretexting and elicitation to get personal information on these people, and which I could have then hypothetically have used to impersonate them or gain confidential information or classified information. And so I did it manually, and it didn't take very long. But I suppose if you had a way to automate certain aspects of it and have them delivered to you, as opposed to sifting through 8,000 people with top secret level clearance or more, it would have been faster and more effective, probably.
That's interesting.
Yeah, so in essence, he created a LinkedIn group that was just for people with said clearance, in the guise of being a recruitment agency.
Recruiter, right?
That was looking for people to that had this kind of clearance for jobs that he gets in. So there was an inherent trust built right away because it was the group. The group was for top secret. So if you join, it's almost like saying already, I have this clearance. Even though there was no checks to prove that you had those clearance. The fact that he was looking for someone to recruit for a job meant that there was a hope of people giving information, because if they're going to talk to you at all, they're looking for a job. And if they're looking for a job, then they're more prone to give information you're asking for because they want the job.
Right. And they don't care about their company's policies as much because they're thinking about leaving that company.
So all of it kind of led down the path to where it was easy to obtain information. But now he gets like hundreds of people joining his LinkedIn group, now having a connection to them where would he? Maybe this is kind of putting you on the spot, but where would he be able to use these API calls then to pull out more information from them at that stage? Is there a level that he could take that research a little deeper by using some of these API calls?
Yeah, I would suspect so. And not only that, is again being able to extract the information, all of the information in a searchable environment. So if you go to developer.linkedin.com, you can actually get a quick start guide on the LinkedIn API. You've got to ask them for what's called an API key. But at that point, you can be running API calls on specific people, which brings back tagged first name, last name, headline, image, all of that information in a way that, again, is databaseable and searchable. So rather than having to sort of trawl through it within the browser, you can be extracting all that information out and doing something with it, sorting it, looking for specific information through it. So would we get more information? Not sure. I'd have to do more with LinkedIn. Would it be more useful and searchable and manipulatable? Absolutely.
That's interesting to me, especially like you're saying, the power of the data is not just having it on the screen. I can't tell you how many times we'll work with a company. Let's use even a tiny company, a few hundred employees, a company with 500,000 employees, and you're given all email addresses to use for phishing or to do research on. The amount of data you get just like using a great tool like Maltego is monstrous. You can get a ton of data back. But then being able to catalog that and have that, like you said, in a searchable format, it could be a very powerful tool. You can hone in on one person. Maybe you see someone of interest, and then use some of these API calls to pull out more data about that individual. Combine that with what you found in a tool like Maltego, and really be able to build profiles on people quite effectively.
Yeah, and you could use simple tools like Evernote, although don't sync because there's some question over the security of the storage of that data. But you can create notes. Say, for example, right, this is my LinkedIn data, and just throw it in there. And of course, it self-indexes, so you can do a search over all that data. So there's lots of sort of free tools out there that enable you to then go back through, which means you're not. It's a real problem, self-censoring as you go. Because you may think something isn't important, and then 50 websites down the line, you suddenly think, oh man, I saw a piece of information on that and I bunged it away. Can't even remember where it was. If you're just storing everything up, putting everything away in a searchable format, and this is where API calls into the databases can be helpful. So it's not just screenshots that we're taking or stuff like that, but it's raw, manipulatable data.
Yeah, I always say in the course that I teach for social engineering is that there is no such thing as useless data. Because, like you said, people will do that often. We judge data based on what we find, but you never know how it connects the dots down the line, no matter how small it is. That's really important. But also, you can understand why people may think that if you're putting everything just inside of like a text document or something. Oh my, that's terrible. Hold on, I'm sorry, folks.
That's Chris. No,
that was me.
That phone in the middle of the podcast. Very unprofessional.
Yeah, that was me. That was not Dave.
I know it wasn't. I know it was you.
I'm making sure that everyone knows it wasn't Dave.
Hey, Jordan, what's up, man? Good to hear from you, by the way.
Yeah, man, it's been a while.
Yeah, miss you.
It's good to have. Likewise, it's good to have these interruptions in the middle of a flowing conversation due to Chris's negligence, so we can catch up a little bit.
Yeah, I mean, the podcast was actually going really good up until this point.
Yeah,
I agree. Yeah.
It was actually really, really interesting. I was listening very intuitively, and then it all got derailed there. But that's cool.
Yeah,
completely.
Yeah.
Somebody's phone rang, but it's good to hear the bromance. It's lovely.
Oh, I love it. Nick just turns around and smacks you guys. That's wonderful.
I love you, even though I don't know you.
Yeah, they have a bromance. It's very disturbing, actually. It's some of the things that people write in about on the podcast as their bromance. And then Ping just comes in and rips people's hearts out every now and then. It's a very interesting dynamic we have here.
So I have to be silent most of the time, because if I were to continually speak, probably there would be a scorched earth on the side of the hemisphere.
Shock and awe.
Yes.
Pretty much.
So, but people like it when she speaks because it usually demoralizes one of us, and that brings the ratings up. So we'll instigate her shortly to demoralize one of us. Generally, it's Jordan or Dave that she demoralizes. It's always funner when it's Dave.
It's very right because Dave cries. He's genuinely hurt.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, when you guys attack me personally, it really does make me feel bad inside.
You see, I've noticed with your whole, you seem to be trying to choose a president at the moment, which you'd think it would be easier than all this. And in England, we have advertisements on the TV about a new politician. He sits there with his tie on and with his flower in his pocket and says, "I'm a lovely chap. You want to vote for me because I'm going to make you happy and put money in your pocket." And everyone's lovely and we all smile and think it's a good thing. When I come to America, it says, don't vote for Mr. Smith because he's a rampant paedophile who's going to kill all your children. And if we said that in Britain, we would all just curl up and feel bad about it.
You're much more civilized, I guess, type group. When we veered away from you guys, back in the early on ages there. I think we kind of got a little degenerative, but it's cool. We like it. We like it that way. That's why we have the most guns.
You need those guns, actually. I think is the
Yeah. Oh.
A step all over the Constitution. So.
Great. So far, this you've tracked Obama, you've insulted Romney, you've talked.
He wasn't a person.
He has not insulted Romney. He just pointed out a fact.
And you've blamed the American government for Stuxnet. And now you peed on the Constitution. So when you come to America next, I really want you to have a camera with you so we can actually see what happens.
Rubber gloves and the bendy camera.
Yes.
Go Romney, by the way. Anyways,
oh, man.
Ron Paul 2012.
Oh, no. Jordan.
Ron Paul 2012.
You see, you could call the show the election special, Chris.
Yeah, excellent. Just what I want. We've been 3.5 years of being non-political and keeping it PG, and now in one podcast we become the election podcast. That's good.
Yeah, well, I mean, when you have a superior candidate such as Romney, it definitely begs to be talked to and discussed on the podcast. So, I mean,
it actually does not.
Much more superior candidate in every way, shape, or form, and
it does
I think
not.
Pretty much everybody kind of agrees with that.
It does not beg.
Dave, this podcast isn't about you. This is about Nick.
Oh.
Step down, step away.
Oh, you see what I mean? This is what I love. Dave opens his mouth and he has to take sides on something, and Ping just rips his man parts off and makes him eat them. I love it.
Do you know the problem I've got with Romney? He looks like a created human being. So somebody has got all the best bits of an American with the big jaw and the sort of the steely stare and sort of made him in a lab to be the perfect politician and the American president, a broad shoulder, take us forward into the world. Whereas Obama just doesn't look very scary.
Well, I mean, is that good or bad? Would you want someone that's scary or not scary?
At that point, I have to make a political opinion, and at that point, I if I had a Fifth Amendment, I would call it. But I'm British, so I just say I'm British. So,
well, that's your Fifth Amendment.
Strong Hill 2012.
All 2012.
I think it just depends on the situation, right? It depends on the situation. In a wartime situation, you want someone big and scary, perhaps, but in a peace negotiation, you want someone who's friendly and warm.
Do you know, if you put a Marine's hat skew if on Romney's head with a big cigar hanging out of his mouth and a big ass gun, or something, he'd look brilliant. But if you gave that to Obama, the hat would just come down over his eyes, wouldn't it? And that sort of feeling that you get with the two of them, and I'm not quite sure which one is going to destroy your country fastest.
Anyhow, we have degenerated into a podcast that is not anything about social engineering whatsoever.
Chris, you can cut out the whole middle. Let's go back to this all being all about Nick.
We've already SE'd Dave's political stance out of him. What are you talking about?
Yeah.
I'm driving this podcast. This is my show.
Welcome to the DaveKennedy.org podcast.
Brought to you by
Sackman.
Produced by Dave Kennedy.
Yes, all about Dave Kennedy. This day we'll interview Dave Kennedy about Dave Kennedy. So Dave, how is Dave?
Go Romney.
Anyhow, we have degraded, and now I have to try to bring it back with some kind of intelligent question on advanced information gathering, and my delaying tactics, which are trying to cause my brain to churn.
Nick,
There we go.
what are the current projects you're working on? What exciting things can you share with us?
Oh, that is such a great question.
Thank you,
Nothing
Pink.
that I can share with you.
Darn it! We want some juice. We want some
It's all
zing.
none of your business.
Or you can
Well-
tell us what you think is the most currently relevant and interesting project that you've recently worked on that you can share with us.
Okay, I think that's interesting. I think probably the most interesting thing we've been working on recently is I got to be careful how this is an ongoing operation, but trying to hunt down a particularly unpleasant paedophile in this country who has been convincing young girls to expose themselves and then using that to blackmail them, and it's been very nasty. And so we've been using some fairly neat little techniques to try and geolocate where this guy is by using all manner of different techniques. So, for example, we may have used phishing techniques. We may have used Skype IP tracking techniques. We may have used other capabilities to try and get a firm lock on his IP address. So that's been really, really interesting. It's always good when you can take the stuff that you work on theoretically and that you teach almost theoretically, and then take it out there to try and take down a bad guy. But I've been working real hard on this new advanced information gathering course, open source intelligence course, which we start in January. That's going to be very interesting. And then I've got my other hat, which is a forensic investigator. And so today I've been down at a local police high-tech crime unit, and we've been doing some work on a case down there. So it's busy times, interesting times.
What kind of a case?
But your course isn't open to the public, correct? It's only available to law enforcement?
This course is going to be, most of my previous courses have been law enforcement only, just because some of the elements have been maybe a little aggressive and hence would be illegal for any person to carry out normally. But this open source intelligence gathering is, as it's sort of the clues in the name, and that it's open source. So anybody from big corporates or anything like that want to come and understand how to understand what their company is leaking, what their top executives leak out onto the internet. They'd love it. They'd really enjoy it. So no, this one's open.
I think what would be nice, Nick, is maybe, of course not on this podcast, but we should talk about afterward is helping you. I would offer to help you to get one set up here in the U.S. when you want to launch that course.
Sure.
Because there's a lot of people that I know that would be very interested in this type of information, especially the way you just defined it. Companies, other people that may be listening to the podcast, maybe I'll just say it, they should email us and tell us if they're interested in this kind of a course in the U.S. I mean, we can plan one like around the East Coast of the U.S. at some point when you're ready to launch it.
Yeah, I'd be more than happy to come out to the US. It's an interesting area. There's quite a few companies out there that teach sort of open source, but having gone through the course material, there's an awful lot of Google, an awful lot of Bing. And so I've tried to avoid that completely and gone down the less known routes. We also use Maltego quite a bit on the course. So we do a little bit of a 101 for an hour, and then we really sort of get dirty with Maltego. So yeah, it's an interesting course. But anyway, this is turning into a sales spiel, so I'm going to shut up. No,
it's okay. We love Maltego. So I spent a lot of time talking about Maltego. Those guys are just phenomenal, and it's a great tool. So we can do a sales pitch for them anytime. But no, it's an interesting idea because this kind of stuff is as deep as it is or as interesting as it is. It's not something that maybe we'll take some of those APIs you're going to give us, we'll put them in the show notes. But it's not always just easy to sit down and pick it up. Like you said, going to the developer.linkedin.com and reading these pages of developer notes on how to use the API. It's something that may be attractive to groups of people to have someone to sit down that has done all that research, all that reading, and then train us how to do it.
I'm not doing this stuff. They're taking on, very expensive executives, and they're doing a cursory search of their history but not really looking for the skeletons in the cupboard, not really looking for the things that may come back and bite them on the bottom later on. I mean, we were dealing with a job whereby there was a guy in a financial institution, and he was very important. He did a security job. He was flying the world. No one ever knew where he was because he was going to some dangerous places. But his 15-year-old daughter is on Facebook saying, "Daddy's gone to Pakistan today, so I'm having a party on Saturday." And this was a massive security breach, huge security breach. But no one's looking for it. No one's checking for it. And this isn't just government. This is big business as well. Needs to know the information that they are leaking. They need to know how to go look for it.
Yeah, that's a really good point. Especially I've seen that so many times. You working with companies, you'll see like the higher up, the guy who hires you, the president, maybe the owner, is really overly sensitive about his data being online. So he's not the weak spot, but it's someone in his family or someone down the chain that is just loving Twitter and Facebook and all those other wonderful little social media tools and putting everything in the world on the internet. That makes the vulnerability then for the company even bigger, or for that individual, because they have someone down the line doing it. So yeah, that gathering all that data could show you where the weaknesses are. This kind of API research can definitely help in protecting companies and show them what weaknesses they have out there.
Yeah. Get executives now using a lot of the travel apps. And so if you were trying to gain access to somebody's office, if you were using an executive not being there as an in to do an SE entry into a building, you've just got to watch the travel apps. You've just got to follow them on LinkedIn. You've just got to, because so often, you see the travel apps reporting, John has gone to such and such conference. Oh, rock on. That means he's not in the office. That means I can now rock in, say I've got a meeting with him, do all the stuff that you've planned out to do. So many are now using the web. They're sharing this information thinking it's part of business, but actually it can make the job of the pen tester, the physical pen tester, considerably easier.
So, a lot of this stuff we're talking about, of course, since we're looking at it as, groups of social engineers, we're looking at it as a weakness, but is this really a weakness based on these social media sites, or is it just the way they're supposed to function and you're just finding ways to use it as a bad guy?
Well, I mean, it kind of depends, right? Because on my talk, my security talk, I use TripIt and Foursquare to find people, and that's how those things are supposed to be used. Of course, that's the point. But then there's other ways, such as using Yelp to find out where the clusters of reviews are, so that you find out where that person spends a lot of their time, and that's either their home or office. That's obviously not an intended use. I mean, Yelp's not supposed to show people where you live, but it does. And TripIt and Foursquare are designed to show people where you hang out and travel.
Yeah, I agree with that completely. It's only a weakness when someone like an attacker makes it a weakness.
And you were going to say someone like you.
Yeah, yeah, when somebody like me uses it. But I mean, that's the point is, people think, oh, I'm not on Foursquare, I'm not using TripIt, so nobody knows where I am. And then you're at your favorite coffee shop and you're writing a 5-star Yelp review, and yeah, you don't live at the coffee shop, and it's not saying, oh, I'm not home right now. But after 10 reviews of something all in a 2-mile radius, I know that you live in that neighborhood. I mean, I know you live in Hollywood if you've reviewed 20 things on the boulevard in the same cross streets.
So when you have clients, Nick, that that maybe you do this for, and then you show them some of these weaknesses, is your suggestion to do things like turn off geolocation services, to never use them, or is your suggestion never go on social media? Like, how do people protect themselves from this being used maliciously?
The problem with that is that often social networking now forms part of the marketing and the communication of that organization. So we're always just encouraging businesses to be aware of the risks. So when an executive publishes a piece of information essentially via TripIt, what are the negatives to that? There may be none for that particular person, in which case rock on. But if you don't stop and think about it, you're not thinking about the vectors that would be used by an attacker. And so I think it's awareness, as these things often are. I'm not a shut it off and shut it down type person. If people want to tweet their locations and things like that, well, fine. It's your life. Go ahead and do it. But you need to be aware of the risks, and you need to be thinking it through. Yeah, that's it.
Yeah, I like that approach though, because again, it's not saying hide everything and then don't use the technology. It's being aware. Being aware of the risk tells you if I want to take that risk or not.
Yeah, that's it. I mean, if I was pinging my location when I travel, is that a big deal? Well, we could argue it. But what about my friend's 14-year-old daughter?
Yeah.
If she's pinging her location,
Right.
now we see an immediate risk vector, immediate. And so we feel very uncomfortable about that straight away. But often I do some internet safety stuff at local schools. And one of the first things I say is, do you know that your phones, when you take pictures and then you post them on certain sites, contains the GPS, the geolocation information? And you see this horror over the faces of the parents, because all their 14-year-olds have got iPhones and Androids, and suddenly they're being faced with the fact that, bad people might know exactly where they live, and where they go on holiday.
Yeah.
So again, it's being aware, thinking through the risks.
Yeah, that's good advice. So, if people want to find out more about you, where's the easiest way to find out more about what you're doing?
They just need to think hard, and I'll find them.
Well, that's interesting.
Well, there's a couple of things. If they just go to CSI Tech, which is csitech.co.uk, the website is great. It's just a front, really. But if you hit the blog, in fact, our blog at the moment, there's a blog link, and there's a bit of a syllabus to the upcoming course. There's stuff that I find interesting gets thrown up there. Not a great poster these days. I've been so busy. But, they can find out about me there. They can contact me there, and I'd be happy to hear from anybody.
You have a Twitter account that you mind giving out that people can follow you? A lot of times our listeners like to jump on people's Twitter accounts and follow them with what they're doing.
Yeah, that's absolutely fine. It's just Nick FX, so Nick Foxtrot X-Ray.
Excellent. And last thing, a lot of people always ask this question afterward is if you had to, and I'm really putting you on the spot because I didn't tell you about this question beforehand, but so if it fails, we'll just cut it out. But if there's one book you had to recommend people reading for some of the things that you do, is there any good reading books that you think you'd recommend for this type of a topic?
On the open source stuff?
Yeah, open source or...
book like Michael Bazzell. Bazzell. He's one of your countrymen. He has written a book called Open Source Intelligence Techniques, and it's the best one I've come across so far. But yeah, Open Source Intelligence Techniques, Michael Bazzell, good book, but I may write my own, so we'll see what.
Yeah, that's the part that we wanted to hear. That would be interesting. When you know that, let us know. We'll help promote it. And if you get us those API calls, we'll put them on the show notes, as well as your website and Twitter accounts. This has been extremely interesting and some good stuff. I think it's gonna really open a lot of people's eyes, and we're really looking forward to seeing some of those API calls you send over and your course. I think a lot of people are going to be really interested over here on this side of the pond. So,
great hanging out with yourself and Dave, Jordan, and Ping. So, I mean, really appreciate you having me on, even though I'm English.
Yeah, well, we actually like English people better on the podcast because they're
not really.
Speak for yourself. Speak for yourself there, Chris. Yeah.
Wait, you're the one who doesn't like the French guys.
Yeah, yeah, Jordan. You make fun of the French.
I just hate everyone.
Now you don't like British either?
No, I mean that's not new. That one's not new.
Oh, really? Man, I've only heard you make fun of French people, so I didn't know that you didn't like the British.
Oh, I thought you said French.
Yeah, no. I knew you didn't like French because every time I bring them up, you mock them and make fun of them. Yeah, I'm sorry, Nick. I'm sorry that our podcast panel is hateful towards you.
It's okay. I can take it. I'll just cry.
There's exceptions. There are exceptions for every rule.
Anyhow, thanks, Nick. We'll get people over to your Twitter and your website, and really appreciate you sharing this information with us.
Yeah, absolute pleasure, and it's been very nice to meet you all.
See ya.
See ya.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Thanks, Nick.
He seemed like a nice dude.
Yeah, he's great. He's a good friend of mine. So, hey, anyhow, let's do our concluding stuff, so then Ping can get back to her day.
Somebody's really quiet, or am I just not?
Is it Dave?
Talk?
Dave's still here, but he's not speaking.
What? I'm still here. I'm listen.
Oh, he's at a client. He's always at a client.
Yeah. Dave is. We have lost our importance in Dave's life, and he just works all the time now.
I got to make a living for my family.
He's running a business. What do you expect?
Well,
Ping. You're not as bad as you normally are. That's it. Thank you.
I have to defend you.
I don't know if that's
Just
a compliment. You're not as bad as you normally are. Is that a compliment? Okay, well, another excellent podcast. I really like that guy. Even if he's British, his accent I just love the accent. I think I can listen to those kind of people, even if Jordan hates them.
It's funny. I had a British professor when I was in school, and it was for like a linguistics class, and it wasn't really that interesting. But she was really cool, and I had no problem listening to her all the time because she had a really cool voice. So I was always tuned in. It was amazing. I should have gone to school in England. I'd have been like a straight A student.
Yeah, they did some, I don't know who did it. There was a group called Pendle. It was a sales group, and they had some research that they said was done that showed that American men love to listen to British and Australian accents.
Probably.
That's totally true. I mean, Jordan just said he loved listening to her. They just sound so much more legit, right?
They do. That was actually part of the research. It stated that something about the British accent makes everything you say sound more intelligent. It's on the flip side. And the flip side, they said how we also profile people that have Southern accents. If you have a Southern accent, we automatically assume you may be slower and of lower intelligence. Not really.
And how often are those predictions correct?
I'm not sure. I mean, think about it in your own life. Does it seem to prove true? Do you view that people that way?
Yes, sir.
I don't, because like Martin's got, Pure Hate's got one. I know a lot of Southerners are really smart, so I don't.
Yeah, well, it definitely proves false. I think if people do profile, it proves false with many that we know. Like you said, like Martin is like one of the smartest guys I know.
Yeah, totally. I guess, but I do know, like, a lot of people are like, oh, well, the women must all be very genteel, and they must all be very X, and it's like anything else, right? As soon as you hear someone who's got, like, an Indian accent, you just assume that they're just really pushy, and they're basically all work on some freaking telephone line, right? Outsourced customer service calls.
Yeah.
I assume they drive Toyota Camrys.
And what's wrong with a Toyota Camry? I don't own one.
And I'm usually right, actually.
I don't own one.
Is that the correct choice for them?
Toyota Camry, yeah. That's like the Indian guy car of choice.
Why?
Wow.
It's a sensible buy, a sensible value. No frills.
It's totally Asian buy of choice, right?
That too.
You're either a Honda family or you're a Toyota family. In our case, we're a Toyota family on my mother's side.
Wow.
Do you have a spoiler on there and rims? Because that's kind of an Asian thing too.
Oh, no, my brother would have probably done that, but he wasn't allowed to drive. He got his license, but my mom wouldn't let him drive until he was 18, and then he ran off to the Army. And I had a Honda, which my mother groused about because it was like 10% more expensive than the Toyota. And oh my God, I paid so much more for a car the same size that's also Japanese made.
That's so funny. He couldn't drive till he was 18. He's like, I'm going to drive all I want in Afghanistan. I'm going to the Army.
Exactly. He ran away from us, quote, women. My mom, my sister, my grandmother, and I.
We should do a podcast on racial profiling. That'd be great.
Just be racist the whole time?
Yeah.
I don't know if that would fly.
Yeah, I don't think it would be. It would definitely ruin our PG rating.
Mm-hmm.
You would need to get a behavioral person who's done like hardcore stuff and published on it.
Robin. Well, I don't know about published on it, but Robin definitely has done racial profiling work.
Yeah, but he can't be on the podcast, so we have to he'll know somebody who can do it.
No, he can be. I think we can get him. I'll ask. That'd be interesting.
Cool. Then we can be like, how immoral are them Catholics?
That's terrible. No. Okay, well, that would be just Ping and I on that podcast,
It was bad because when we were I forget who it was, but they're like, yeah, all the guys like driving around in their turbans. And I was like, people from the Middle East wear turbans. There are certain sects from India who
Yeah, the
who wear
Sikhs.
turbans,
The
quote
Sikhs.
unquote.
Namely the Sikh.
Yeah,
Yes.
The Sikhs, they all wear turbans, and they're from India. They're not Middle Eastern.
Yeah, but they, that's the thing. They think like all people from the Middle East, quote unquote.
Wow.
Yeah, that's a PC term. Go ahead and leave that one in there.
Yeah. I'm gonna have to probably beep that one out. We just lost our whole Arabic following. Well, you remember when 9/11 happened? All those poor guys that were even dark skinned were getting beat up.
Yeah,
Oh yeah, taxi drivers.
I mean, these guys, and they weren't even from the Middle East. Some of them were Hispanic, and they were getting beat down just because they looked like the skin color of someone from the Middle East.
Yeah, no, taxi drivers in Seattle, a lot of them got threatened, and a lot of them started flying American flags, like little American flag stickers in their cabs. And
That's a good idea.
it's just,
Yeah.
it was
I mean,
just,
it's terrible that it had to be that way to be like, hey, I'm not a terrorist, but it's a good idea to do that.
Yeah.
yeah.
On their part, that was wise. Yeah, we had an Indian student get beat up at the University of Michigan, like the most liberal place ever. And the dude's like, I am not from Saudi Arabia. I am from Mumbai. Like, what the hell?
Yeah. Wow. I mean,
Difference.
I bet it was a bunch of people with southern accents that did it, too. I'm just kidding. I'm just kidding.
that's horrible. Either that,
Did
or
you
they,
read any
either that, or they were
Tucker Max's
French.
books? Like, I hope there's beer in hell or something like
Yeah,
that.
yeah, I heard they serve beer in hell. Yeah, exactly.
I mean, I'm reading it, and so much of it makes me uncomfortable because it's like, at first I thought, how much of this is just like tongue-in-cheek humor, really jerking the chain? But then I started to think, I think there's too much of it to just be jerking the chain here.
I'm sure he does that stuff because it started off as him just being like completely out of control. And I know people like him. I actually know him, but I know people like him too. There's guys like that exist. Now I'm sure he lays it on thick because it's good literature for him to write. Like, what is it called? Bro fiction or whatever. I can't remember. There's like a genre that's spawned because of this. But yeah,
Right.
that people do stuff like that. I mean, that stuff exists. And honestly, if I compiled all of my worst stories, it probably wouldn't be able to come up with a book worth and sell it. But I mean, there have been times. I won't even finish that sentence. There have been times.
Well, all I could think about was you, because you'd both been lawyers. And then
Right.
I was thinking, and then I was like, well, Jordan drinks. Who'd be fun.
PG.
How's that PG-13 rating going?
How is
Chris?
it? It's horrible. Ping.
Well, how did we get on that from social engineering?
Not really sure. I actually was going to just ask you, Jordan, how things have been, and if you had anything you wanted to promote since you missed the introduction.
Yeah, no, things have been great. I mean, the talk, I just got back from Halo, where I gave a similar talk that I did at DerbyCon. Looks like I might be giving some talks at the Homeland Security programs at some California universities, which is really cool. I didn't know that existed. Times have changed since I was in undergrad, making me feel old. Homeland Security didn't exist when I was in college, or starting college anyway. And now they have entire degree programs that are for Homeland Security and cybersecurity, which is really awesome. So I'm going to be giving those talks there, I hope. And which reminds me, if you're listening to this and you want me to come and speak to your university or organization, I love doing that. And I'm cheap. Man, am I cheap. So
How cheap are you?
that's always a plus. And AOC Art of Charm, the boot camps are going really well. We have a lot of guys actually coming through from this podcast, a lot of cybersecurity and InfoSec guys coming through, and they're getting a lot out of it, which is great. It's always cool to have those guys, or you guys, I should say, in our programs, because you're smart and you learn fast. So we can turn some of these sort of technical dudes into some pretty suave mofos, which is nice.
That is kind of cool. That's kind of cool to hear that people are listening to you and then coming through your class here. That's
I know.
Nice.
Kind of a miracle, and I enjoy.
You, I thought there was going to be a finish to that sentence, but
I enjoy. Period.
period. ... Well, that's kind of cool. ... So
Yeah.
I saw a picture of you at Halo shooting what looked like a semi-automatic weapon.
Yeah, and then some was like, "Oh, that's not a real gun. The magazine's empty because the bolt is pulled back." Blah blah blah. And I'm like, I can't wait to upload the video I have of me like 1 millisecond later shooting a gun. Tag.
Yeah, I mean, seriously. I mean, come on. What, they were going to like doubt that you were shooting a real gun? Like, I took a picture of me with a water gun because that was cool.
Like, who cares if, like I'm trying to pretend like I held a machine gun.
Right.
This is America, mofo.
It was actually, and it was everything that we fired were actually real guns. They were modified because we were testing out UTM, which is Ultimate Training Munitions, which is the safety so that if you're doing live fire training exercises, you don't actually kill the people you're training with.
What's the difference?
They
What's the
were
difference between
Trooper style, like Starship Troopers? Remember when he took his helmet off and got capped in the head, big dude? That won't happen with UTM. You'll just get blinded.
So that was actually really awesome because got to shoot a lot of things that aren't available to the public to purchase, and in full automatic as well.
So does it that kind of ammo? Does it actually have a like the bullet part on it? That I'm trying to think of the word.
Projectile.
Thank you.
It acts just like regular ammo. I mean, the firearm gets hot because it is shooting a projectile. The only thing is that it has marking, so there's no explosion, right, when it hits. There have marking tips on it so that you can see where people are hit. And they sell millions of these rounds to the U.S. military, law enforcement, and even for movies because they do act and react just like a regular projectile. They were made out of aluminum grade, aircraft grade aluminum, which is recyclable. And they go at least, the AR rounds of 5.56 go 50 meters, which is less than if you were shooting real rounds, but it's good enough in a live fire training exercise.
Yeah. Interesting.
Yeah, I asked if you shoot someone with it, which is what everyone's asking right now in their head, yes, it will break your skin and it hurts like crazy and it'll make you bleed, but it won't probably kill you.
Right.
So that's kind of cool.
Won't probably kill you.
In the eye with it, obviously, it's going to take your eye out.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, it's not like paintball where there's a large margin of safety.
Yeah.
But it's larger than getting shot with a bullet. That's for sure.
Yeah, I was really curious about that question that you asked, Jordan, because when I saw the picture, it just looked like there was plastic tarps next to you and you were at a range. And I'm thinking, man, I know this is on a small island. I saw the setup for Halo. I know it's on a small island. There's probably people everywhere. And how do you control the fact that someone just starts shooting the wrong way by mistake?
Yeah, basically you put a plastic tarp and hope the UTM doesn't go through it. And it probably won't. I mean, those are heavy tarps. But yeah, if it was bullets, you'd be in trouble.
Yeah.
That's for sure.
Yeah. I mean, they gave us, what do you think it was? Maybe 10 yards? It wasn't
maybe.
It wasn't like shoot 25 yards because of the limited space they had, but I'm sure they even had it reinforced on the ends where in the direction that we were shooting past the paper target and stuff. It was interesting to try it and to do it there, and I had been wondering what as well myself, but these guys deploy these at like the SHOT Show and at a lot of other events, so obviously they've got their situation, the setup down pat to prevent people from getting hurt. And obviously we all wore safety glasses and stood to the side, not in front of where the firearm is being shot at.
Very cool though. Interesting, and interesting seeing the pictures too. Look forward to the video when you get it up there. Let us know. We'll tweet it. So I guess that's it for the week. Dave had the run. So what else do we got to promote? We talked about Ping stuff, Dave stuff. We even let Dave talk. No cons coming up that I can think of. Where are we at?
Oh, Black Hat Abu Dhabi is coming up. They had to move it up a week to December 3rd through the 6th. But that is on the other side of the world. It's a 22-hour flight from Seattle.
That's okay. There's that is good to promote. So you could probably find that information out if you want to go to that or who the speakers are on the Black Hat website.
Yep, they just finished the last round of selections, etc., etc. So it should be a good event.
Coming back from that and probably starting the planning for Black Hat USA.
Yes, and Europe. That's in full swing as well.
And when is that?
Black Hat Europe is going to be in March. Let me pull up the calendar so I don't give you the incorrect date. But I believe... wrong year. It's the second week. And that's going to be in Amsterdam again, so it's the week of March 11th. So it's the 11th through the 14th, and it's going to be at the Grand Hotel Krasnopolski again, which is an awesome venue. It's right in the middle of Amsterdam. And it should be just on the verge of good weather. One year we were there, we had snow in March, and that was kind of cool. But it's 2 weeks after the big RSA.
On the verge of good weather. That always sounds exciting.
Their weather pattern's just like Seattle. So it might be cool, might be chilly, it might rain. Like I said, one year we were there at that same time frame, we had some snow, but it's a beautiful city, and you actually don't mind running around outside even when it's miserable out, because it's just such a cool place to be. The people are there are super friendly. If you've never traveled abroad, it's a super easy place to get around. It's not so huge you get lost. Great food, just great places to see. You can see the Anne Frank house, you can go to the Van Gogh Museum. Decent shopping. Absinthe, if you're an absinthe fan, you can get absinthe there.
Yes.
And it's not bad. They're a big licorice society there. Very historical. Saw a lot of buildings there from the 1500s. It's very well preserved, having gone through World War II.
Man, I should just hire you to be like our travel guide when we're there.
Well, yes, if you're into Northern Renaissance art and architecture, I can provide a very good tour of the city for you. But it's a very easy place to travel to, and if you can make it to a Black Hat, it's a great venue, because you'll get the best of a small enough event where you can really network really well with the sponsors and the speakers and the attendees, and there's plenty of stuff to do outside of the event as well. It's one of my favorite places to go and hold a show at. I like it better than Barcelona.
Personal tours starting at $10,000. Contact Ping at social-engineer.org.
Exactly. And 50% of the proceeds will be going to Brad Smith.
Awesome.
And, and the rest will be going to my own private project.
Yes, to the Ping Fund.
Exactly.
Okay, well, folks, I guess that's about it. Don't forget to check us out at social-engineer.org or social-engineer.com. If you're on IRC, you can go to irc.freenode.net, channel social-engineer. Twitter, we're Human Hacker, also now SOC Engineer Inc., INC. You can follow us at either one for corporate or non-corporate events for the love of God. That's the second time.
Really, bro?
I mean, seriously, what is wrong?
Why don't you turn it off?
I did. I thought I turned it off. It was off.
Cool story, bro.
So I'll be cutting out. Nah, who knows? I won't even cut that out. Just leave it. Who cares? Mistakes are fun.
Uh-huh.
Yeah, okay, whatever.
Plus, they were all my swearing words because I was angry with Tucker Max.
Yes, yeah, I know. You curse a lot, but that's okay. And until next month, when we'll be back together again, having more fun and more phones ringing in our ears. We'll see you then.
Fall 2012.
Oh, man. See ya.
Even still, though, there's not a chance to see. You can tell by how I walk, I've got somewhere else to be. Cause I'm confident, like I'm in a hurry, like I've got work to do, like I'm going places. Welcome one and all to this fun competition, except nobody knows if there's any opposition. Face so friendly, smile disarms, everything's good, no cause for alarm. Cause I'm like you, and likewise the same. But for you this is work, and for me it's a game. Give a thumbs up if you know what I'm saying. Next round starting, believe that I'm no signal, my battery is finished. Hey, could I go and use your phone for a minute? Thanks, yo, I had to make a call to play it down while my rootkit expelled your data to the cloud. Plan to stall, stand appalled, gotta take my time scanning all your systems, the ones you didn't wipe. Scamming y'all, I got terabytes of drives. Cannonball in the dumpster when I dive. Black and white, all the info with the details. And what type of person really prints out emails? Still intact, all the sentences and questions. I mean, paper shredders really aren't that expensive. Yup, we want it all, the kit and caboodle. It's not that impressive, I just know how to Google. Found the CEO with the social network name, sir. Nope, it's dual core, we're just leveraging the framework. Welcome one and all to this fun competition, except nobody knows if there's any opposition. Face so friendly, smile disarms, everything's good, no cause for alarm. Cause I'm like you, and likewise the same. But for you this is work, and for me it's a game. Give a thumbs up if you know what I'm saying. Next round starting, believe that I'm playing. Welcome one and all to this fun competition, except except nobody knows if there's any opposition. Face so friendly, smile disarms, everything's good, no cause for alarm. Cause I'm like you, and likewise the same. But for you this is work, and for me it's a game. Give a thumbs up if you know what I'm saying. If you know what I'm saying. Welcome one and all to this fun competition, except nobody knows if there's any opposition. Face so friendly, smile disarms, everything's good, no cause for alarm. Cause I'm like you, and likewise the same. But for you this is work, and for me it's a game. Give a thumbs up if you know what I'm saying. Next round starting, believe that I'm playing. Know what I'm saying. Know what I'm saying. Give a thumbs up if you know what I'm saying.